Her husband threw her into the dirt, cursing her for giving birth to 3 daughters instead of a son. Bruised and broken, she thought her life was over. But that's when a shadow fell across her trembling body, boots, spurs, and a deep voice that made her heart stop. "You're coming with me," said the lonely rancher, his eyes filled not with pity, but with promise. Backhand index pointing. Right before we dive into this heart-wrenching story of courage, kindness, and second chances, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss powerful stories like this one. The dusty winds of the valley carried with them the whispers of sorrow, and no one knew that pain more than Aisha. She had once been a bride full of laughter, her bangles jingling like a song, her eyes full of light. But 3 children later, her joy was replaced with bruises. Her crime? She had given birth to daughters, one after another, and in her husband's eyes that made her worthless. That evening, as the sun began to set over the barren fields, the shouting had grown louder than ever before. Neighbors heard it but turned away, for they had grown used to the cruelty inside that house. Aisha clutched her youngest to her chest while her other 2 girls hid in the corner, trembling. "You're no woman at all," her husband spat, raising his hand again. 3 daughters? 3 curses? You should be ashamed. His words cut sharper than his blows. Aisha staggered back, her lip bleeding, her heart breaking. She wanted to shield her girls from his fury, but she was too weak, too broken. At last, he shoved her out of the house, her body landing on the dirt like a rag discarded. The door slammed shut. The cries of her daughters echoed from inside, but Aisha knew she wasn't welcome there anymore. She pressed her forehead into the dry soil, tears streaming, her soul begging for mercy. And that was when she heard the sound of heavy boots crunching against the dirt. She lifted her swollen eyes and saw him, a tall figure, broad-shouldered, wearing a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. A horse stood behind him, strong and restless, as though it sensed the storm that had just passed. He looked down at her, his eyes not sharp with judgment but heavy with sorrow, as though he knew her pain in ways no one else could. His name was Samuel, a rancher who lived on the edge of town. The people called him lonely, because his days were spent among cattle and his nights in silence. His wife had died years ago, and he had no children. He had buried himself in work, in the rhythm of chores, in the stillness of the land. Yet beneath his hardened hands was a heart that ached for connection, for family, for love that life had snatched from him. Samuel crouched beside her, his voice deep yet gentle. "You can't stay here," he said firmly. "You'll die if you do." Aisha blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. "Where will I go?" she whispered, her voice cracked from crying. He reached out, his palm rough from years of labor but steady. "With me. You're coming with me." Those words fell on her ears like rain after drought. No man had ever spoken to her with such certainty, not to control her, not to break her, but to lift her from ruin. For a moment, fear surged inside her. What if he was like the others? What if kindness was just a mask? But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no deception, only a loneliness that mirrored her own. He helped her to her feet, steadying her trembling frame. The weight of her daughters clung to her heart, and she cried, "My girls, he won't let me take them." Samuel straightened, his jaw tightening. "No child belongs in that house of hate," he said. And without hesitation, he walked to the door, his knock echoing like thunder. The husband emerged, his anger boiling at the sight of another man. "What do you want, rancher?" he barked. Samuel's voice was calm, but his presence carried the power of a storm. "The woman and the girls are leaving with me." The husband laughed, a cruel sound. "She's my wife, and they're my blood. You've got no right." Samuel's eyes narrowed. A man forfeits his right when he forgets his duty to protect. "You've beaten her, broken her. She and the children deserve better. And I'll see that they get it." The husband lunged forward, but Samuel didn't flinch. He stood like an oak, unshaken by the wind. "Try me if you want," Samuel said lowly, his hand resting near the coiled rope at his side, a rancher's tool but one that spoke of discipline and strength. The husband saw the fire in Samuel's eyes and faltered, his pride stung. "Fine, take your burden," he sneered, retreating. "She'll ruin you just as she ruined me." Samuel ignored the venom. He stepped inside and extended his hand to the frightened girls. "Come on, little ones," he said softly. The eldest, barely 8, looked at him with eyes too old for her years. Slowly, she reached for his hand, and her sisters followed. Aisha's heart cracked open at the sight, her daughters walking toward safety for the first time. That night, Samuel led them to his ranch, where the land stretched wide beneath the stars, silent and sacred. Aisha had never known such quiet. No shouting, no fists, only the distant sound of cattle and the creak of wooden fences. He gave her his late wife's room, its walls still carrying traces of gentleness. He laid out blankets for the girls, lighting a lantern so their fear of the dark would ease. For the first time in years, Aisha breathed without trembling. But as she lay in bed, she wondered, why would a man like him help a woman like me? She had nothing to offer, nothing but scars and sorrow. Yet Samuel's words replayed in her mind, "You're coming with me." They weren't chains but wings, lifting her from the ashes. Over the next days, Samuel showed them the life of the ranch. He taught the girls how to feed the horses, how to scatter grain for the chickens, how to watch the sky for rain. Their laughter returned slowly, like timid birds finding their way back after a storm. Samuel, once surrounded only by silence, found himself smiling again, though quietly, as though afraid the moment might break. Aisha, too, began to heal. The bruises faded, the pain softened, though the memories still haunted her. She would wake in the night, sweating, hearing her husband's cruel voice. But each time, Samuel was near, steadying her with a calm presence. He never forced words, never asked for more than she could give. He was simply there, solid, reliable, a man whose love was shown not in grand gestures but in the way he fixed a broken chair for the girls or carried extra water so Aisha wouldn't strain. And yet, whispers began in town. People saw the woman and her daughters living at Samuel's ranch and wagged their tongues. Some said she was lucky, others said she was shameless. Samuel paid no mind, but Aisha felt the weight of judgment. One morning, as she fetched water, an old woman passing by muttered, "3 daughters and no sons, no wonder your man threw you out. You'll curse this ranch too." Aisha's heart clenched, shame searing her. That evening, she sat by the fire, quiet and withdrawn. Samuel noticed. He knelt beside her and asked, "What's weighing on you?" Tears burned her eyes. "People say I'm cursed, that my daughters are a burden. I fear I'll ruin your life." Samuel's gaze softened. He reached for her hand, his voice steady as the earth. "Listen to me, Aisha. Children are not curses. They are blessings, no matter their number, no matter their gender. Your daughters laugh brighter than the sun. They bring life to this ranch. And you," he paused, his throat tight with emotion. "You are not a ruin. You are a survivor. Don't you ever forget that." Aisha wept, not from sorrow but from the strange, healing power of his words. For the first time, she began to believe she was more than the lies she had been fed all her life. The ranch, once silent, now pulsed with life. Samuel would watch as the girls played by the fence, their giggles floating through the air like music. Aisha, her hair loosened from years of strictness, would sing softly as she worked, her voice gentle and soothing. Slowly, Samuel's loneliness began to fade. He had opened his door to save them, but in truth, they were saving him too. Still, shadows loomed. The husband who had cast Aisha out was not a man to let go easily. Pride burned in him like fire, and whispers in town fueled his rage. One evening, as Samuel fixed a gate, a rider approached. The husband,